Hey YouTube, I'm back with another video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so now. Press the red button down below and make sure you subscribe to my channel. You don't want to miss the information that I have to give, child. So today I'm coming with the video, and this has probably been one of my most requested question about why did I decide to name my business Skin by Egypt. But however, I think I want to go ahead and speak about it now since I've been getting a lot of inquiries about it, and I just want to give everybody kind of big like an informational video on why I decided to stick with that name. And I'm gonna tell you guys originally how the name started. So the name Egypt is a name that I used to dance by. And the name was given to me by a Freemason, that a guy that was a club manager, and he gave me the name Egypt because we kind of had a talk, and it was kind of like around my first time when I started dancing, and me and him kind of had like a very like long talk, and you know, a lot of things, knowledge that I possessed, he didn't know that I knew about it. And so he was like, you know, I was like, I don't know what name I should dance by, because at the name I was going by some basic ass name. I think it was like China or China doll or some shit. So that's how the name started. So he gave me the name Egypt, and I thought it was so different. So I was like, oh my God, I've been sticking with the name ever since. So that's how that name came about. So the reason why I decided to name my business, well, originally my business is Egypt's Luxury Beauty Bar. Sorry, Egyptian's Luxurious Beauty Bar. But my DBA is Skin by Egypt. I just wanted to shorten it anyways, because that was a long ass name, obviously, and I can barely even remember it. But so I ended up getting my DBA, and my DBA is Skin by Egypt. So I wanted to keep the name because, you know, like, this is kind of what helped build my career. This is kind of what grounded me to help me build my career. But when I first started my career, I was dancing, getting my name out there, getting noticed, going to school. That was a way how I kind of paid my way through school as well, was through dancing and that type of stuff. So, and I don't knock strippers, because I mean, if you utilize the stripper game correctly, you know, and you end up, you know, getting a business, I mean, you know, more power to you. I don't look down on nobody that strips or anything like that. I know it all come with the territory of being a dancer, and a lot of people don't know what it is to be a dancer. But I mean, I can save that conversation for another video on like the strip club and behind the scenes, and how I ended up saving up my money to invest in my business, how I ended up paying my way through school, because at the time I was, you know, I had a lot of bills on me. I had a lot of stress, and, you know, dancing was the thing. I've always been a dancer ever since I was a little girl. I used to always love to dance. I used to be in like drill team and like step team, and I even tried out for cheerleading. I used to participate in talent shows. I used to do praise dances at church. So dancing was always a thing that I liked to do. And then when I found out, like, you know, when I grew out of my shyness, and I figured like, hey, I can dance and I can make money with this, you know, it was just there. It was up from there. So after that, I kind of just like started dancing and started trying to help myself to find a better career, because I knew dancing wasn't where I wanted to end at. So that's the background and the history on why I came up with the name, where it came from, and that type of stuff. So as I kind of grew more into the Egyptian culture, you know, I looked at it more than just a name. It was more of like the meaning of the name. And y'all gonna see me, I got my little notes here, okay? So you might see me look down or whatever, but I'm just kind of I'm trying to just go off my notes as well. So, because this is a lot of information. But anyways, as I started growing more into the Egyptian culture, I became fascinated with with the culture a lot. And you know, if you know anything about history, you know, this kind of like where, I don't want to say this and sound wrong, but it's kind of where a lot of things took place, well, they say, I don't want to say life took place, but you know, it's one of the oldest countries, of course. It's been here a very, very long time. So I have some facts that I want to share with you guys on what the word Egypt means to me, and why, what it represents, and why I decided to just go ahead and continue on with it and with my business. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started into the notes. So 10 facts, the reason why I'm obsessed with the Egyptian culture. Of course, the Great Pyramids. I mean, as you know, it's been very, very hard for people to duplicate the pyramids. I believe they have it's the world's largest pyramid that they have. The Mayans were, well, I'm not going to say the Mayans, but the Egyptians people, they were so smart. They were so ahead of their time back during this time in this, you know, the country where advanced technology, the Nile River. So, you know, they were really, 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 really genius people. Like, they really were. So the pyramid is, you know, of course, always the greatest thing. And eventually I want to visit Egypt. I haven't got it on my bucket list yet. I've been out the country and I got my passport, but I'm end up going to Tokyo. But I think my next stop, I really want to do Egypt, because I want to visit and see this live in person. So that was another thing. The Egyptian royals, you know, as everybody know, you know, the Egyptians, they had servants. Before there were any type of slavery, they used to rank you off royalty. So the more royalty you had, the better quality of things you had, for his hair, wigs, makeup. I mean, you literally didn't have to do anything for yourself back during this time. If you were like a god or a goddess back during this time, you know, you literally didn't have to even eat for yourself. Like, there were people cooking for you. They had these sedans that they carried, and I'm not talking about the car. And they had these sedans that is a big chair, and people used to hold it and, you know, carry like the god around the country or whatever like that. You know, they had rituals and things like that. They created, let me stay on task because I'm jumping a little bit ahead of my notes. So the servants basically dressed them and got them ready, you know, and everything. So that's where the toothpaste was invented, the calendar, the clock. And the reason why they created these things was because during the Nile River, they had to know when the storm was coming, because the Nile River will, you know, overflood and kind of, you know, wash away everything that they work hard to build and stuff like that. So that was number 2. Also too, the royals ate really good, but they kind of ate like fish. Well, I'm not gonna say good, but they ate like fish and fresh fruit. They believed in monogamy. The men, they had multiple wives, and that's where you see certain religions, certain men or women they can have like multiple husbands or multiple wives, you know, and things like that. So it all came back to with the Egyptians. Like I said, the higher rank you were, the better quality you could get, perfume, everything. So that's how they can kind of separate the, you know, the higher ranks from the pharaohs or whatever. Okay, so also, let's see. I said they covered the clocks. They had the irrigation system. That's what made them end up coming up with the clocks. So they had these water clocks that they came up with. And like I said, it will rain during their seasons, and they have to be able to tell time. So what they used to do, they had this, I don't remember the name of it, but they had like this thing. They used to fill it up with water, and then they have something at the bottom to like catch it. So each time the water drips, depending on how much water, that's how they could tell time. So that's how they it was like a time measuring thing. So it was more of like not looking on your phone or your watch to tell time. They have more of a time measuring type of thing. So that's with that. They had the solar calendars. Because they had the solar calendars, which they separated, and that's kind of where our seasons come from, which we have summer, winter, fall, and spring. So we have 4 seasons. They end up coming up with the 365 days a year, and it was originally 360 days, but they end up adding 5 extra days, which is 365, which they weren't even really sure about it, but they came up with extra days because of the holidays and days that the children can celebrate. So that is a fun fact. I thought it was really cool. So it's like, we don't even know we're existing in 365 days. It's just something that the Egyptians came up with, as they were counting, because they had 3 seasons. And the reason why they kept up with these days was because they had the irrigation system. The irrigation system to be able to tell time, so they can know when to, so they can know when growing, harvest, and irrigation is. So they can know when they need to grow and harvest their agriculture. So, that's, if they didn't have that particular information on the calendars and the clocks, they would really put their agriculture at risk, and that's how they ate, that's how they grew their food, that's how they lived at that time. So that's on that. I really didn't give y'all a lot of facts, and I haven't even been counting. Like, I've just been kind of going off the top of my head, because I'm a notes type of person, and once I kind of make notes of things, I can always come back and remember it. When I write it down, it helps me to remember. So I'm trying to remember all of this information as well, which some of this information I kind of already knew. But some of this information I was like new to me, and I thought I would share with you guys. So I was talking about the makeup and wigs. The pharaohs had their own, cosmetic that were used by men and women. They had oils. That's where you get your oils scent. They kept their skin scented in a dry climate. So in Egypt, it's very dry. Like I said, it rains, but they have their season to where it rains a lot. But other than that, it's really dry. So they would use oil scents to help them smell good, to keep track of their hygiene, to help them smell good. So they had oil scents, because we all know, if you're living in a dry or humid climate, and you spray on perfume, and sometimes the I want to say, like, the chemicals in the perfume, it's just not the best idea in a dry setting. But when you have your oil and you can rub it a little bit, it's like it stays on our skin longer than an actual spray fragrance. So that's with that. I'm gonna stop saying it. That's with that. Also too, I think I said this, depending on the quality of wigs and the hair that they had in their head, symbolized what type of rank they were on. So the higher quality of wig you have, the better cosmetics you have, the better, even oil scents that you had. It definitely showed your ranking of, what type of level you were on. If you were a servant, or if you were a pharaoh, or if you were a god or a goddess, it also represents that as well. Now, also too, the Egyptians wore wigs in the dry climate to protect them against heat and sun damage. Okay, so they had like hair, either they had blunt hair or they had big hair. But they wore those wigs because in a dry climate, your hair is easy to break off. It's easier to shed because it's not getting the hydration that it needs. So it's easier for your hair to come out in a drier climate. So that's why they wore wigs, was to protect their hair against sun damage. And if you living in the southern states or any, well, really I could say the southern states because it gets hot out here. And if you're living out here and it's sun, when it's when it's summer and it's like 102, 105, yeah, it's braiding season because nobody's trying to be dealing with that. And if if you have curly hair texture, you already know your hair is gonna be like this at the end of the day. Like soon as you walk outside, it's gonna be like big as fuck. So that was another thing that they did to help protect themselves against heat and sun damage. When they would shave their head, it was a sign of mobility, but majority of them kept their heads covered, so you wouldn't even know if they had their hair shaved or not. Also, too, another thing, well, this is not number 2, but also another fun fact is they created prosthetics. So prosthetic legs, prosthetic arms, hands, toes. The Egyptians came up with that, the whole, prosthetic legs, and that way, they can still like move around and have mobility in their area and still help out as far as like harvesting season and growing season and irrigation. And when the Nile River would tend to flood, they end up creating prosthetics to help out with that. So I thought that was very, very, very genius. They came up with surgery. So the surgeries that you see now from the girls having breast augmentation or butt jobs or fillers, they kind of came up with all of that. And I haven't got too deep into that as far as like what were they using as far as during that time, because I don't know. But they came up with surgery, having surgery. I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand, because if they kind of came up with prosthetic legs and arms and toes, then somebody had to do the surgery, right? Right, makes sense. So yeah, also they came up with the scissors. So there is a false myth that I don't know what his name is. I wrote it down. It's Leonard. I don't know, Leonard. I don't know. You guys gotta go do the research on that. But it's a false myth that he came up with scissors, which is not true, because the Egyptian had scissors, but they were made like a little bit differently than what we use today. Of course, they came up with paper, and we already knew paper is, comes from our universe, of course. Ink, they came up with ink. It's a lot of different things that they came up with. Like I said, the Egyptian people, they were so far ahead of their time. These people were like magnificently genius people, and I decided to stick with my business name being Skin by Egypt, which is why I named my facials after certain Egyptian gods and goddesses, was due to that reason. Because they had a lot of gods and goddesses, but we have our main particular ones that gets talked about more than all the other gods and goddesses and stuff like that. But yeah, these people were so smart. They were so ahead of their time for them to even think of stuff that we still like. And this was like in BC when they created all of this, and it's to be like AD now, and we're still like using these things that they've created, and it just keep advancing and advancing and advancing. It's like genius to me. So I continued with that name because the name means a lot to me. And I think that, Skin by Egypt is going, and I'm going to stick with that. Like, I don't see me changing my business name. I understand where it originated from as far as like history wise, and then also her history, which is mine. Watch why I kept the same name. So it's more than just like, oh girl, it's just your dance name. Oh girl, it's just your stripper name. Why would you want to name that? That's not your real name, quote unquote. Whatever. I don't care. But the Egyptian culture, I fell in love with after I really dug into the history of it. And I thank the guy at my strip club, my previous strip club manager. Shout out to Mike. That used to be the strip club manager. He might remember me if he see this video. He was a Freemason, and we conversated and we talked about, we talked about a lot of different stuff more than just the strip club. So I think that's kind of what made me stand out or whatever. And for him to give me such a magnificent dance name. And even when I go dancing at other different like cities, no one really has that name. So I need to get my name. I need to get that copyrighted. But I done already went over my time in the video. I just had to update you guys, had to educate you guys, and that's why I decided to name my business Skin by Egypt. If you get a chance, check me out. Follow me on Instagram at Skin by Egypt or _Egypt with EGYP with 3 T's. Facebook, Skin by Egypt. So make sure you guys go follow me. I'm going to go ahead and conclude this video. I will see you guys in the next video. And you guys have a wonderful, productive. You guys have a wonderful, productive week. And I will see you guys in the next video.